Yahushua, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushua.
Consider the lilies, how they grow. They toil not, they spin not. And yet I say unto you that Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. If then God so clothed the grass, which is today in the field and tomorrow is cast into the oven, how much more will he clothe you, O ye of little faith? And seek not ye what ye shall eat or what ye shall drink, neither be ye of doubtful mind. For all these things do the nations of the world seek after, and your Father knoweth that ye have need of these things. But rather seek ye the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. But rather seek ye the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell that ye have, and give alms. Provide yourselves bags which wax not old, a treasure in the heavens that faileth not, where no thief approacheth, neither moth corrupteth. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's pleasure to give you the kingdom.
The heaven, even the heavens, are the Lord's, Yahweh Bashem Shai's, but the earth has he given to the children of men. Right, and what is it for? To dwell in. Now, Yahweh Shai said that there's a place up there in the heavens in the Father's house that he has prepared for us. And then the scriptures speak about the Lord spread out the heavens to be inhabited. So it's going to be something, man. It's going to be something. And even in that, we still can't fathom what it's going to be like. Because the earth is huge, but the earth is only going to be able to accommodate so many Israelites. Remember, it says that the little one shall become 1,000 and the small one a strong nation. So Israelites are going to multiply. Remember, just in the land of Egypt, it said the more hell they put on Jacob, the more they multiply. Isaiah 54:1, sing, O barren, thou that didst not bear, break forth into singing and cry aloud, thou that didst not travail with child. For more are the children of the desolate than the children of the married wife, saith the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Shai. This goes back to Sarah and Hagar. Remember, Sarah was barren, Hagar got pregnant. But the one that was barren, she has more children than the one that had children, but she had Ishmael. The Lord blessed Ishmael, gave him 12 princes. And you see that Israel is blessed. They have a blessed land. You know, they are blessed people. They got a lot. But the Israelites, on the other hand, are going to be far greater. And they're going to be so many that it says, enlarge the place of thy tent, meaning where you live, enlarge that. Make it bigger. Stretch it out. And let them stretch forth the curtains of thy habitations. So where is that going to happen? That's going to go further than the planet Earth. It's going to go out there to different planets. Spare not, lengthen thy cords and strengthen thy stakes. Why? Because the Israelites are going to be so many. For thou shalt break forth on the right hand and on the left, and thy seed shall inherit the Gentiles, the actual nations, because they will be our slaves.
My slaves, my Edomites, welcome to hell. Welcome to the kingdom.
And that's the true meaning of being blessed. To have slaves bowing down to you, coming to you at your beck and call, and make the desolate cities to be inhabited. Fear not, for thou shalt not be ashamed, neither be thou confounded, for thou shalt not be put to shame, for thou shalt forget the shame of thy youth, meaning everything that we've suffered It's going to be forgotten. The Lord said He's going to wipe away all tears from our eyes. It says, and shall not remember the reproach of thy widowhood anymore. For thy maker is thine husband, the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai of hosts is his name, and thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel, the power of the whole earth shall he be called.
The Lord promised better things for us, okay? Because the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai has a favorite people. And he's going to give this favorite people a heavenly kingdom. A kingdom that's blueprinted and formatted and patterned after his mind. How he want a kingdom to be.
But rather, seek ye the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell that ye have, and give alms. Provide yourselves bags which wax not old, a treasure in the heavens that faileth not, where no thief approacheth, neither moth corrupteth. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
Barakatah Yahweh Shai. Barakatah Yahweh. Barakatah Yahweh. Barakatah Yahweh Shai. Barakatah Yahweh Shai. Barakatah Yahweh. Barakatah Yahweh. Barakatah Yahweh Shai.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful lake out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. All right. So going into this edition of Morning News and Prophecy, I want to tap into scientific, behavior, a brave new world. All right. And what we have to understand, the devil, has put a lot of time, energy, and resources to conditioning the minds of the people, okay, for this new world order. This has been a long time in the making, okay? And these devils, they have been allowed access to particular technology, to where they could have, control over the people like no other heathen has ever had, and the devil, has tapped in on the left-hand side, with his witchcraft, his enchantments, okay? And the scriptures say, their heart is deep. Their mind is deep when it comes to, psychological warfare. That's another thing that the Lord has allowed the devil, to master is psychological warfare on the left-hand side, which he uses that, all right, for mass control, to modify behavior according to his liking. And when we look at the earth, well, we have to understand, when we look at society, we're looking at a society that's been heavily, all right, modified. Okay. This man has heavily modified the behavior of society, and that's why you look at things and it's like, this is not normal. Okay. Because things have been altered according to this devil on the left-hand side, man, through his enchantments. So when you go to Revelation 20:7, let's start off here. Get a couple of precepts, and I got a video I want to go into. The Spirit led me to this guy Aldous Huxley. The writer of this book called The Brave New World. And he talks about the tactics, okay, of these oligarchs or these elite families. Okay, and how they would, modify the behavior of the people to where they would fall in love with their servitude, okay, and not question anything. Now, when you go to Revelation 27, it says, when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loose out of his prison. Okay, and we know Esau, Edom, he's the representation of Satan in the earth. All right, Satan, Shaitan, which goes into adversary. Okay, and Esau, Edom was the people that was created to be adverse to righteousness. Okay, that's why his whole rulership is based on him rebelling against Yahweh Bashim Shai. His whole rulership, you go into the elites, it's all about challenging the authority of the Heavenly Father. And this new world order is the ultimate, move to undermine the authority of Yahweh Bashim Al Shai in the earth, man. And this is the devil's lie. This is Esau's purpose for being created, was to be the adversary. He was created to be the wicked, and he's playing this part. Okay, and we'll get into that as well. Revelation chapter 20, verse 8, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth. And this is what the devil has done. This devil has went out and deceived the entire planet Earth. Everyone is deceived some form or some fashion, some more than others, by this devil's enchantments, because it's layers of enchantments. Okay, that's why people think that they're woke, but they're still enchanted. That's how deep, that's how many layers of enchantments this man has laid on the earth. Okay, that people, they might peel 2 layers off, but they're still enchanted. They still got 270 layers to go. That's why it's a miracle, that through the power, of Yahweh Bashim Al Shai, that the enchantments are being broken off, of the hopeful elect, and we're still a work in progress, man. We're constantly finding out new things, things within us that we got to make adjustments on based on this nigga, man. Okay, based on the social engineering of this nigga, there's still certain flaws and things within us that we're still recovering from, man. And it's gonna be a work in progress. The thing is, we're fighting, and the thing is, we have clarity to where we can see it, we can be aware of it. Okay, but this man has, enchanted the masses so much that they have no awareness. Okay, even when they think they own something, they're nowhere near. Okay, the real reality, man. Okay, it says, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is the sand of the sea. So this precept addresses this devil's renaissance, his rebirth, okay, in which he would establish the Greco-Roman Empire in the earth again. Okay, this time it will be digital through America, NATO, and the EU. Okay, and it will lead him to a war, okay, with Magog, which is Russia. But that's the end of this man. Okay, so this devil, he's, at the peak of his deception, okay, which is bringing him to this war, which is going to end his empire, man. Okay, so the Most High has this man mapped out, okay, to the T. You see, but we're seeing the devil operate in his last days, and he's making this last ditch effort, to try to pull off, okay, this new world order, okay, and it's been a long time in the making. All right, now I want to get this, okay, because the devil has been patiently putting this thing together. All right, like I said, I got this this video is going to show you, that these things have been in the making. Okay, now we're seeing the fruits of it. And the devil, he's trying to crown his enterprise. Now, when you go into Genesis 3:1, it says, now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which the Lord, all right, power had made. Okay, and this is speaking of a man. All right, and this man was from, all right, the children of the wicked. Okay, you see, and what did he bring to Eve? He brought an alternative way. You see, the same thing that he's going to present to the world, this is what he presented to Eve. I got something better. I got something that, gets you past the restraints of the Most High. We're going to transcend that old order that was holding you back. Okay, and that's how he's going to present the new world order, as if he's going to he's going to give you technology. Okay, he's going to create a system where people can transcend those bounds, okay, of the Most High. Okay, and it says, now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord power had made. And see, we know for sure that that spirit of the serpent, okay, came back as Esau. There's no doubt that this nigga was that serpent in the garden, which he was tapped into witchcraft as Cain. He was tapped into what? Violence, war. All right. And then we came back as Esau. He embodied both, man, the witchcraft and the war. Okay. So as Esau, this nigga is the best of both worlds of the serpent and the and Cain. Okay. And he said unto the woman, yeah, as the Most High said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden. Okay. And they were speaking of the philosophies outside of the ways that was given to Adam, because Adam was given that breath. Okay. The other people wasn't given their breath, that Holy Spirit, but Adam was given their breath as the Son of God, okay, to rule with order. Okay. And the scripture tell you, because of envy or the devil came sin into the world, so the serpent was envious of their order and their way. So he came with an alternative way that he presented as better. Okay. The same thing that he's getting ready to do now, man. Okay. Present this alternative way to righteousness as an upgrade. Okay. So we always get it, is you get this word serpent. Okay. So you go into the word serpent. And you're going to link this up with Esau. Now you go to the root word, which is nakash. All right. Nakash in the Hebrew. And it goes on what? To practice divination, diviner, observe signs, to learn by experience. Okay. And this devil, he's tapped in. Within his rulership, he has the time, okay, and resources to just tap in. You see, he could just invest, all this time. He can, he got these think tanks, he has all this money, because all these colleges, when you go into these colleges, these pristine colleges, it's all about, Esau, trying to figure out how the mind work, how the body work. Okay. Tapping into these drugs, these medicines. So this devil was able to do a diligent search, man, and tap into these things. That's why he knows, the body, the mind so well, because he does a diligent search in these things, man. Okay, this man has all these universities, and he just gathering the best thinkers in the world, okay, to just brainstorm on wickedness, man. You see? And he's tapped in. Okay, it says a whisperer, a magic spell, a divine, all right, enchanter, man. Okay, a divine enchanter. Okay, so when you go from that word serpent, all right, and that's the spirit that runs the earth, man, enchantments. It said he was more subtle. Okay, so you go into the word subtle in the Hebrew, which is arum. Okay. All right, arum, okay, probably arum. All right, then it goes into a subtle, shrewd, crafty, sly. Okay, subtle, shrewd, crafty, and sly, man. Okay, and this is the style of rulership of the devil. He will come back and bring that subtlety, that craftiness, that shrewdness, that witchcraft of the serpent, man. Okay, now let's go here to Genesis, and then I got something I want to look up. I had looked up. So you go here to Genesis 25. Okay, when it describes Esau. Okay, this is Genesis 25 and 27. It says, and the boys grew And Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. So say Esau was a cunning hunter. Okay, so let's get this word cunning. Okay, let's go into cunning, which is in the Hebrew, yadah in the Hebrew. All right, it says what? To know. All right, going back to being diligent, to know, to learn, to know by experience. Okay, to know how to be skillful in. Okay, to be skillful in. You see, so this devil, he's very skillful. Okay, when it comes to hunting. Now, of course, these devils can go, hunt deer and animals. All right, but his top game is the souls of men. Okay, Esau's top game with these elites. Okay, these elite families. Okay, Amalek is hunting the souls of men through what? Witchcraft. All right, now to understand, because the scriptures, when you go into the scriptures, it describes this man as a serpent. It's just giving him qualities. Okay, like called Herod a fox. It was talking about the qualities of a fox. Okay, it described this man as a serpent. Well, it talked about the qualities of a serpent. You see, they call Israel, like an ox or an ass, which are stubborn animals, man. Okay, so when you go into, I say, is a serpent a patient hunter? Just a quick Google. It says, yes, a serpent snake is widely considered a highly patient ambush predator. A patient ambush predator that can remain completely motionless for hours, days, or sometimes even months, waiting for the perfect energy efficient opportunity to strike. Their hunting strategy relies on stealth, camouflage, and immense patience to ambush prey. Okay, and this is the spirit of Esau. He's been stalking the masses for a long time. Okay, this thing has been in motion a long time. Okay, but this devil, he's patient. He thinks generational, man. Okay, that's the thing we gotta understand. Esau thinks generational. While everyone's caught up in their day-to-day divisions and arguments, this devil, he's on to the next generation. Okay, I say people trying to, there's like Jake say, well, let's go build some community centers, boys and girls club. Nigga, it's over. He done already destroyed that generation. They're gone. Okay. These podcasts thinking, well, what should we do as men and women? It's over. Okay. You've been destroyed. You see, Esau been did that. He on to something else. Okay. Now he's rolling out the infrastructure because he's already did he's already modified the behavior of the people. Now he's putting up this infrastructure to cage everyone in. Okay, it's going to give him even more control. All right, but the behavior modification is already done. When you see these people on the internet arguing, you're looking at a GMO mind, a genetically modified organism, man. Okay, a nigga that's 40 years old trying to be a street nigga. That nigga is GMO'd in the mind. Okay, a nigga woman that's getting terrible results, still trying to be a feminist. That's a GMO mind. She's already been, her behavior has been modified to the point of no return. Okay, that's why it took Yahushua. Okay, it takes Yahushua to break those enchantments, man. Okay, outside of that, man, you're done. You see, so a snake is very patient and is energy sufficient or energy efficient. Okay, so I want to get this this video real quick. All right, so I was looking at some things. I just kept hearing his name, Alex Aldous Huxley and his brother Julian Huxley, which we'll get into both of them in a minute. But let's go here to this video and just listen to this, man. Okay, this is what has been done. It's already been done in the earth. Now he's trying to just tie up the loose ends, okay, with the infrastructure of this new world order. But as far as the behavior modification, that's already been done. Okay, so just listen to this, man. Fair use, fair use. Not using this for any, profit or monetary gains, and for educational purposes only. Fair use. So let's listen to this.
In his 1958 book, Brave New World Revisited, Aldous Huxley wrote the following. If the first half of the 20th century was the era of the technical engineers, the second half may well be the era of the social engineers, and the 21st century, I suppose, will be the era of world controllers, the scientific caste system, and Brave New World. 30 years prior to penning these words, Huxley wrote his classic work of fiction, Brave New World. Set in the distant future, this book depicts a scientifically managed dystopian society. In Brave New World, the ruling authorities attain mass compliance not through force, but by supplying the masses with endless streams of distracting entertainment, and manipulating them with drugs and other technological methods. Huxley wrote Brave New World as a warning. Advances in science and technology, he believed, were paving the way for the type of society depicted in this book, and he cautioned that if a Brave New World type of order solidifies, it could be the final or ultimate revolution. The people will have their liberties taken from them, but they will enjoy their servitude and so never question it, let alone rebel. In a 1962 interview at Berkeley University, Huxley explained, "It seems to me that the nature of the ultimate revolution with which we are now faced is precisely this, that we are in the process of developing a whole series of techniques which will enable the controlling oligarchy, who have always existed and will always exist, to get people to love their servitude." According to Huxley, this Brave New World totalitarianism was most likely to solidify in the 21st century. And so in this video, we are going to examine whether Huxley's predictions are coming true. Do we live in a brave new world? In Brave New World Revisited, Huxley wrote the following. In 1931, when Brave New World was being written, I was convinced that there was still plenty of time. The completely organized society,
It was in 1931. These devils, remember this nigga, the serpent, patient. He's just been working away at the minds of the people, man. This nigga's always been in the background, to chipping away at the minds of the people. And when technology increased, they just accelerated the devil's ability, for behavior modification. And this guy, Aldous Huxley, he was amongst the aristocrats of the British, so he was hearing some conversation. He knew. You see, that's one when you're amongst these elites, they're talking generations ahead. They're not talking about, Super Bowl. They're talking about generations ahead. What will the next 3 generations look like, and what moves need to be made to ensure, this for the next generation. This is how they talk. So he was amongst those circles. All right, he was amongst the higher ups, and his brother, which we're going to get, Julian Aldous, was, because he was warning about this. He was like, look, these niggas trying to do too much. He hearing these conversations, he like, damn, these niggas are trying to do too much. But his brother Julian Huxley was all for it, So we'll yes, I got something in the chat kind of sum that up. But this is Aldous Huxley, and he was like, these niggas, if they do what they want to do, nigga, it's gonna be bad,
Scientific caste system, the abolition of free will by methodical conditioning, the servitude made acceptable by regular doses of chemically induced happiness. These were coming, all right, but not in my time, not even in the time of my grandchildren. 27 years later, I feel a good deal less optimistic than I did when I was writing Brave New World. The prophecies made in 1931 are coming true much sooner than I thought they would. The nightmare of total organization has emerged from the safe, remote future, and is now awaiting us just around the next corner. In Brave New World, advances in psychology made it possible for the ruling authorities to use mind control to condition citizens from an early age to think and behave in ways that were submissive and conformist. Nearly 100 years after Huxley wrote his dystopian novel, has this type of condition.
Yeah, and just why you have the school system. Well, you come out the womb, you're getting juice. Okay, you're getting the Similac. All right, the formula. Okay, the formula for what? You see? And it all goes into behavior. It's prepping you to be easily manipulated. Okay, so you come out, okay, and you get the juice, you get the formulas. Okay, then you get sent to these schools. There's a lot of things in the cartoons, and now it's more blatant. Okay, so from an early age, you're being prepped to be manipulated the rest of your life.
Left the realm of fiction and entered reality. Today, the art of mind control is in the process of becoming a science, Huxley wrote in 1958. The practitioners of this science know what they are doing and why. They are guided in their work by theories and hypotheses solidly established on a massive foundation of experimental evidence. While the idea of mind control may sound like science fiction, in the mid to late 20th century, many prominent philosophers, psychologists, and scientists joined Huxley in sounding the alarm bell that research into the fundamentals of this phenomenon were well underway. In 1953, the distinguished British philosopher Bertrand Russell explained, "It is to be expected that advances in physiology and psychology will give governments much more control over individual mentality than they now have even in totalitarian countries." The renowned 20th century American clinical psychologist Carl Rogers warned that the rapid development of the behavioral sciences, which is a cluster of scientific disciplines, including psychology, psychiatry, sociology, social psychology, anthropology and biology, economic and political science, mathematics and statistics, was in the process of becoming what he called an if-then science. By this he meant that scientists and social engineers were discovering that if carefully constructed conditions are implemented in a society, then there is a high probability that the majority of citizens will respond to these conditions in predictable and hence controllable ways. 1954. I believe that too few people are aware of the extent, the breadth, and the depth of the advances which have been made in recent decades in the behavioral sciences. The increasing power for control which it gives will be held by someone or some group. Such an individual or group will surely choose the purposes or goals to be achieved, and most of us will then be increasingly controlled by means so subtle we will not even be aware of them as controls. It appears that some form of completely controlled society is coming. In a report released in 2021, scientists on a subcommittee of the Scientific Advisory Group for Emergencies in the UK admitted to using totalitarian mind control tactics to obtain mass compliance. One scientist went as far as to state that he was stunned by the weaponization of behavioral psychology over the last 5 years, while another admitted, "You could call psychology mind control. That's what we do. Clearly, we try and go about it in a positive way, but it has been used nefariously in the past. Psychology has been used for wicked ends." Along with conditioning the thoughts and behaviors of the citizens in Brave New World, the latest in technology is used by the ruling authorities to provide the population with non-stop distractions of the most fascinating nature. The purpose of this readily available entertainment was twofold. Firstly, to ensure that the citizens did not pay attention to political and social realities. And secondly, to promote docility and stupidity, and thus create a population that cared little for freedom. Is something similar happening today? Whether intentionally imposed on society or not, one thing is certain. Technology and the endless supply of stimulating, yet morally degrading entertainment that flows from it is creating a passive, ignorant, and spiritually crippled population uninterested in resisting the implementation of its political chains, just as Huxley warned. As the art and science of manipulation come to be better understood, the dictators of the future will doubtless learn to combine techniques of propaganda with the non-stop distractions which, in the West, are now threatening to drown in a sea of irrelevance the rational information essential to the maintenance of individual liberty. But it is not just an endless supply of distractions which make possible a brave new world. Huxley also predicted that in the future, certain forms of technology would be used to increase the suggestibility and obedience of a population, so that everyone can be depended upon to behave almost as predictably as machines. In Brave New World, the technology used for this purpose was called hypnopaedia, or sleep teaching, which Huxley called the greatest moralizing and socializing force of all time. Every night, while asleep, citizens were exposed to propaganda and repeated suggestions from the state. Huxley based his idea of sleep teaching on the science of hypnosis. Scientists have long known that when an individual is placed under hypnosis, alpha waves are activated in the brain, just as they are when in a light sleep. In both cases, suggestibility is dramatically heightened. As Huxley explained, most of the things that can be done with and to a person in hypnotic trance can be done with and to a person in light sleep. Verbal suggestions can be passed through the cortex to the midbrain, the brainstem, and the autonomic nervous system. If these suggestions are well conceived and frequently repeated, new patterns of feeling can be installed and old ones modified. Post-hypnotic commands can be given. Slogans, formulas, and trigger words deeply ingrained in the memory. While not subjects of sleep teaching, many people in the modern world watch television on a near daily basis for hours on end. Scientists have known for decades that television watching activates alpha waves in the brain, thus placing the individual in a hypnotic-like trance, primed for suggestions and ready to be programmed. The neurosurgeon Adam Lipson explains, "There have been EEG studies that demonstrate that television watching converts the brain from beta wave activity to alpha waves, which are associated with a daydreaming state and a reduced use of critical thinking skills. When in a television-induced hypnotic state, cliches and slogans from the mainstream media, moral values and ideological principles from shows and movies, and suggestions from commercials, politicians, celebrities, and state-sponsored propaganda bypass the critical faculties and seep into the foundations of the mind. Over time, the typical television watcher is transformed into an opinionated robot. His or her evaluations of the world are mindless regurgitations of whatever has been absorbed from the TV."
So you see, and that's why they call it TV programming, and then going into that the sleep instructions or hypnosis, and that's why you have the nightly news or the news come on in the evening when people are beginning to wind down. You have the evening news, and then you have the nightly news. Okay, and you know that this man's media is nothing but a median. Okay, which is giving you instructions. Okay, from the elites. From the left hand side. Okay, and the scriptures go into these things. Let's get this here real quick, and we'll go back into that. But this devil, this is what he's been on. He's been doing this, man. Okay, that's why people, they defend opinions that they hear on TV, even if it working against their own interests. Okay, even if it works against their own interests, man. And you look at our people that, you look at people in general that argue about being a Republican and Democrat, but a Republican and Democrat, all right, has not drastically changed none of you people's situation. You being a Democrat has not drastically changed your situation. You being a Republican has not drastically changed your situation. You're just defending an identity that you was conditioned to defend. Okay? You look at niggas like being a street nigga, like what does a street nigga do for you in the real world? Okay? Every day you take a risk of going to prison or being put to death. Okay, but why is that behavior glorified? Because it's a modified behavior. It's ingrained. In each generation, it gets ingrained more and more. Okay, each generation it gets worse and worse. You see? So let's go here real quick to the book of Psalms 64. This Psalm 64:4 says, um, I started at 1. It says, "Hear my voice, O power, in my prayer. Preserve my life from fear of the enemy. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity," man. Okay. And these devils have these secret counsels, of how to pull this off. Okay. This thing is very coordinated when it comes to these enchantments, man. All right. And these things are discussed in these secret councils. And then he has the power, to pull it off because he controls the media. He controls, okay, Hollywood. He controls the music. Okay. He controls the food. He controls the religions, the school curriculum. He controls these things, man. So he's able to just hit everybody from all angles. It's an enchantment from all angles. Okay. You're constantly being bombarded. And this is why Yahweh Shai set us free. Okay, and the thing is to stay free and not to get pulled back into it. Because once, we've been awakened, the thing is to stay free, because it's always pulling, that's why, we begin to switch up how we move, what we listen to, what we watch, and, and that's why even reading, is crucial, because reading is a lost art. And the scriptures say, what blessed is he that read. And you reading the scriptures, man, that's not just, you taking in information, man. That's putting the hedge around us, man. That's putting the spirit on us, man. Really tapping into these scriptures and reading. In a society that's been bombarded with enchantments, man. Okay. Let's matter of fact, let's get that in St. John chapter 8, verse 32 and 36. Let's get that in with the Revelation chapter 1. I don't know if it's 7, verse 7 to 3. But blessed is he that readeth. Let's see. So I can think of now. But I'm gonna go down on this. It says, "Who wet their tongue like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words." Yeah, because a lot of this programming, like it comes from the movies, the media, the news, okay, the music. So this man has weaponized his media, his news, his music. These things have been weaponized in psychological warfare against the masses, man. Okay, and it says that they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not, because he targets the masses, but there's a specific target on the tribes, okay, which were, the people that was created to be perfect in righteousness, the Israelites, okay. And this devil, he wants us. This devil, another thing too, this new world order, man, he wants to prevent, okay, their remnant from being perfected, but there's nothing he can do. Now, when you go into that Hebrew word for shoot, is yarah. All right, yarah, okay, which means to throw, to shoot, to cast. Now, when you go down, it says what? To direct, to teach, or instruct. Okay, and this goes into behavior modification, man. All right, so that's why you look at the tribes; they're under heavy behavior modification. Okay, they've been instructed, they've been taught to act and react in a certain way. Okay, which is self-destructive. This was intentional, man. It's not no, random thing when you look at our people and how they move and how they operate. No, they was instructed, okay, through behavior modification, man. A lot of the curses we read about in Deuteronomy, well, Esau was used through behavior modification to bring these things about. Okay, because Jake didn't have that evil eye towards his brothers in the 60s and 50s, the 40s and 30s. Okay, the woman didn't have this evil eye toward the man, and the children. Okay, back in the 40s, 50s. This thing is this happened as of late. Okay, through what? The instructions and behavior modification of Esau. Okay, he created this war between a man and a woman. Okay, which called gender wars. Okay, a culture, baby daddy, baby mama culture. These things wasn't a culture amongst Jake. Okay, but through behavior modification, these things become the norm. Okay, alphabet is normal around Jake. Okay, the alphabet community. Okay, this all goes back to the devil's, behavior modification, man. Through science. All right. Esau tapped in on the left hand. Okay. So let's see. Let's go back. So this Psalm 64:4 says that they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not. They don't fear the consequences of them, pushing behavior modification that's against Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai. We was given over to this nigga for disobedience, but this nigga want to take it to another level. Okay, Esau wants us to be in a permanent state of sin as Israelites. Okay, that's one of the main goals of his, behavior modifications. Of course, he wants to control the masses and dumb down the masses. Okay, but there's a special target on the tribes, man. He wants to keep the tribes in a perpetual state of sin and rebellion against our power. Okay, that's why the remnant being awakened, okay, and being set free from these enchantments. That's a problem with this nigga and his system, man. You see, he ain't got no answer for this, because the behavior modification was supposed to be, the clamp. You see, we weren't supposed to escape this. You see? So this is what he don't have an answer for, man. It's in the spirit. The resurrection of the church in these last days. Through the spirit of Yahweh Shai. He don't have an answer for this, man. Okay? And his new world order is all about locking this down, man. Locking this behavior modification. He's locking it down and just getting rid of everyone, okay, that's against it, man. It says they encourage themselves in the evil matter. They commune on laying snares privately. They say, who shall see them? Okay, because when these, when we were listening to this rap music, and we didn't see the enchantments behind these things. We watching this TV and the movies, and we didn't see the enchantments that was going on behind the scene. Okay, so these devils, they encourage themselves in the evil matter. They in these councils saying we're gonna do this, we got this working. They done took this bait, they done took the crack. They being thugs now. They killing each other. We shipping in the crack. We shipping in the guns. The women are single mothers. They bragging about being single mothers. We got this going. Okay, now let's put this in the game. Let's put this in the formula. Okay, let's draw further division. Let's get them assistance. Let's get the man fully out the house. Let's make the Israelite man the villain, the constant villain in every movie. He the villain, he a dog. The woman is a victim and a hero. Let's keep pushing this. So they encourage themselves in the evil matter. And they commune on laying snares, which are traps. Okay, they say, who shall see them? Because the whole time we in the back, we didn't know all this was going on in the background, man. We didn't know that this devil had all this in motion in the background. All right. Until now. That's why everything is revealed. Okay. As the brothers posting there. So it says they search out iniquities. They accomplish a diligent search. They go all in. They study. All right. That's why you have a thing called neurology. Okay, the study of the brain. Okay, the network of the brain. Okay, because he's studying how to be wicked. When this nigga gets into diligence, how to splice a gene, the mRNA, the DNA, he's studying how to be wicked. Okay, this nigga is diligent in his wickedness, man. It said both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart and their mind is deep, man. Okay, he's deep into these things. You see, so yeah, let's go back to the video. I'm gonna get those precepts as well. Brothers got. Well, let's go back here. Let's see. Mr. Brother Ataza 1, Hopeful Elect 144, this Obadiah 1-6. It said, how are the things of Esau searched out, and how are his hidden things sought up? How are his hidden things sought up? And it's the spirit of Yahweh Shema Shai that's revealing everything in its due time. Then shall their wicked be revealed. Okay, and we in that time where the Lord is making good on his promise of revealing the devil. Shameful spewing, okay, on his glory. Okay, so let's play the rest of this.
Nearly 70 years ago, the medical doctor Joost Meerloo warned of the hypnotizing dangers of television, dangers which now apply to computers, smartphones, and any other technology which turns the human being into a mesmerized spectator of a screen. No longer does man think in personal values, following his own conscience and ethical evaluations. He thinks more and more in the values brought to him by mass media. Television keeps him in continual awe and passive fixation. Consciously, he may protest against these anonymous voices, but nevertheless, their suggestions ooze into his system. In Brave New World, suggestibility was heightened not just through the use of technology, but also with a superdrug called Soma. This systematic drugging of individuals for the benefit of the state was a main plank in the policy of the world controllers. Soma had no physiological drawbacks. When taken in small doses, it stimulated a sense of bliss, and in larger doses, it generated pleasant hallucinations and a refreshing sleep. It provided what Huxley called a holiday from reality, and most importantly, it made the citizens highly submissive. As well as tranquilizing, hallucinating, and stimulating, the Soma of my fable had the power of heightening suggestibility, and so could be used to reinforce the effects of governmental propaganda. Today, not one Soma-like superdrug, but a whole concoction of drugs including but not limited to alcohol, marijuana, psychotropics, opioids, and sleeping pills are readily used as a means of escaping reality. The widespread use of drugs in our day has socio-political ramifications. For a drugged-up society, just like a dumbed-down society, is more easily conditioned into servitude. The chemical dependent is not a politically vigilant person who is ready to defend liberty, and as Meerloo wrote, any man who escapes from reality through the use of alcohol and drugs is no longer a free agent. He is no longer able to exert any voluntary control over his mind and his actions. Alcoholism and drug addiction prepare the pattern of mental submission so beloved by the totalitarian brainwasher. Drugs can be used to make man a submissive and conforming being. The Society of Brave New World was also organized into a scientific caste system. Prenatal genetic engineering produced children destined to belong to one of 5 castes. The highest caste, Alpha, was made up of citizens genetically engineered to be intelligent, strong, and beautiful. The lowest caste, the Epsilons, were short, ugly, stupid, and treated as slaves. Each of the castes was forbidden to intermingle. Is a scientific caste system possible today? While the widespread use of prenatal genetic engineering may not be on the near horizon, postnatal genetic engineering and the technological augmentation of the brain and body is in its initial stages. We are at the beginning of a fateful era in which man may merge with machine, and the result could be the formation of a two-tiered scientific caste system. There will be a caste of human beings who welcome the merger with technology in the expectation of transcending biological limitations. And there will be an all-too-human caste, composed of people who resist the merger with technology. What restrictions will be placed on those in this latter caste? What surveillance and control will be possible on those who accept technological augmentations? What will be the carrots on a stick to entice people to transition into a transhumanist era? Time will tell. The world of tomorrow will witness a tremendous battle between technology and psychology. It will be a fight of technology versus nature, of systematic conditioning versus creative spontaneity. If Huxley's predictions are coming true, what can be done about it?
The Lord, Yahweh Shai. That's the only thing that can be done about what the devil, is doing in real time. And that's Yahweh Shai, what you're going to get into that, So I want to get this. A brother just asked a question. It says Soma. So I just looked it up, the brother Prince of the Power. So I just looked it up real quick. Does Soma deal with AI? It says yes, Soma heavily involves AI, but the context depends on whether you mean the 2015 video game or various related tools. The Soma video game focuses on the ethics of AI, consciousness, and robot, sentience. Okay, so you got Soma as a video game, but then you also have Soma, Nick Tier AI assistant, a customized 24/7 AI-powered teaching assistant for higher education that answers student questions, provides tutoring, and helps instructors manage classroom workloads. Okay, Soma Lab Medical AI, a platform that uses AI simulation to create realistic, on-demand clinical training for medical students. All right. So yeah, AI, is associated with Soma. And then, Soma being this like this numbing drug, and that's what you have, all this stimuli, all this instant stimulation, through social media. Okay, then you have actual drugs, people drugged up on, these different narcotics and pharmaceuticals, overindulging in the drink, and you see. So he keeps people doped up on some type of stimuli, some type of vice, and that's just a society that's easily, controlled. Okay. Now, I want to go here dealing with. So you go into all this Huxley just to go into who he is, and also his brother Julian Huxley. All right. So it says, just asking about who is Aldous Huxley and Julian Huxley. Do the current high-tech government draw similarity to Aldous' book, A Brave New World, today? It said that Julian Huxley endorsed transhumanism. Now his older brother, he's the one that coined the term transhumanism, Julian Huxley. Okay, so these devils is amongst these circles, okay, of the elites, as philosophers and, thinkers, and they say Aldous Huxley was more of a critic. Okay, but his brother was, he was tapped in, he was fully into, this technocracy and transhumanism. Okay, and they say his brother was a critic of, so we never know if he was a true critic or, he was playing the critic. Okay, but they both, in these higher up circles amongst these Britain aristocrats. Okay, so it's that Aldous Huxley, okay, 1894 to 1963, was an English writer, philosopher, and social critic. He's best known for the novel Brave New World in 1932. All right, and it's right before, I think they're doing the Great Depression during that time. So hey, these devils, man. It said key things about him came from a famous intellectual family. The Huxleys were basically British academic royalty. Okay, so they was amongst those elites, man. deeply interested in science, psychology, ethics, spiritually, okay, and power. Often warned about how technology, comfort, control could undermine human freedom. Often warned about how technology plus comfort plus control could undermine human freedom. And this is a system that's based on saturating people with technology and comfort, and people give over their control long as you keep feeding them technology and comfort. Okay, that's why they get a new upgrade to the phone every year, the same phone. So you're just giving them more technology, more comfort, and people give up their control. Okay, and the devil, what he's going to do, he's going to begin to take away comfort. All right, and people are going to want their comfort back, man. But in order to get that comfort, you're going to have to give up more control. Okay, he has people junkie. People are really junkies out here with this technology, man. We're going to see it when this devil really shuts this thing down. We're going to see that people are just like you see on the movies and crackheads. You know, they just wild out, go crazy. People are going to be on it when they don't have access to their technology and comfort, man. That's what's really going to get these people riled up, man. Technology and comfort, you know, food included. Okay. It says Brave New World in a nutshell. It says the novel depicts a future society where humans are generally engineered and cast assigned before birth. People are kept docile through pleasure, entertainment, drugs, and soma, and social conditioning. There's no need for overt tyranny. People love their own oppression. Stability and efficiency are valued over truth, individuality, or death. Okay? Huxley later said this world worried him more than Orwell's 1984 because control through pleasure is harder to resist than control through fear. All right, now he goes into Julian Huxley. All right, his brother. It said Julian Huxley was Aldous' older brother, a biologist, a evolutionary theorist, and public intellectual. All right. It says first director of the UN, the UNESCO. All right. As you go into, UNESCO, just to look it up real quick. So UNESCO just goes into United Nations or the UN, educational, scientific, and cultural organization. Okay, a specialized UN agency founded in 1945, headquartered in Paris, that fosters global peace. Oh boy, when this nigga say peace, it's finna get bad, man. All right, that fosters global peace and security through international cooperation in education, science, culture, and communication. Okay, so let's go back here. So that's UNESCO. So this is his brother Julian. It says major figure in developing the modern evolutionary synthesis, strong advocate of scientific humanism. Unlike Aldous, the novelist skeptic, Julian was very much a science forward optimist. It says, do more high tech governments resemble Brave New World? Short answer, there are parallels, but we're not living in it wholesale. It says some commonly noticed similarities is soft control instead of brutal force, algorithm, convenience, dopamine driven entertainment, endless distraction, behavioral conditioning via tech, social media, feedback loops, nudging, surveillance capitalism. It says medical and biotech power, genetic screening, fertility tech, all right, psycho pharmaceuticals, okay, which is mind altering drugs, okay, goes into this form, which pharmakia goes into witchcraft, okay, you can look that up. It says stability over dissent. It says preference for social harmony, risk management, and acceptable, okay, opinions, okay. So I looked it up. I said, did Julian Huxley, his brother, endorse transhumanism? Yes, very explicitly. Julian Huxley coined the term transhumanism in 1957. Believed humanity should use science and technology to consciously guide its own evolution. Supported genetic, improvement, GMOs, cognitive enhancement, brain chip interface, Neuralink, extending human capacity beyond biological limits. A famous phrase of his view: the human species can, if it wishes, transcend itself, not just sporadically, but in its entirety, which is a complete rebellion against Yahweh Bashem Al-Shai. Complete rebellion. It says he saw transhumanism as ethical and guided, not reckless. Okay? So these certain devils, these certain thinkers, that these devils have been building upon, these certain philosophers, that these devils build upon, and now where we at today, where most of the behavior modification has been done. Now it's just about building the infrastructure to lock this thing down. Okay, so let's go. Let's go back here. Back to Psalm 64. And this is why we see, with Yahweh Shai, because Yahweh Shai, what he did, his sacrifice made it possible for us to break free from those enchantments, man. Because it's through Yahweh Shai and his sacrifice that we're able to break free from these enchantments today as the hopeful elect. Okay? This is the brother affiliate camp, loyal to Yahweh Shai. John 8:32, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. So it's the truth that's setting us free from what? The enchantments. To where we're on the outside looking in. Okay? We're not bogged down, and saturated, with these devils, enchantments and lies, man. Okay? On the contrary, the Lord has put us in a position to call this nigga out, man. This verse 36, St. John 8:36, it said that the Son therefore shall make you free, ye shall be free indeed. Okay, so if it was predestined for us to be loose from these enchantments and this darkness, and to follow Yahweh Shai, well, there's nothing that can be done that can pull us back into that. It was already predestined for us, to come out these enchantments and follow Yahweh Shai unto salvation, man. Lord will, we of that number. Okay, well, let's go back to Psalm 64 as it talks about the devil. Matter of fact, I'm gonna read verse 6 again. It talks about his his diligent search and wickedness. Psalm 64:6 say they search out iniquities, they accomplish a diligent search, both the inward thought of every one of them, and the heart is deep. But the Most High shall shoot at them with an arrow, suddenly shall they be wounded. And it began with the prophets. Okay, it begins with the prophets, man. The prophets are a monkey wrench in this man's plans. Okay, the Lord began to shoot spiritual arrows at the devil. Okay, to begin to bring down these enchantments. Okay, to break up these enchantments for the rest of the elect. Okay, so the Lord has waged a spiritual war on this devil, and then eventually it's going to be those actual arrows, which are the nukes, man, which is going to destroy this wicked infrastructure, man. Everything that the devil has built up. And America is going to be a desert. They're going to get the worst and the bulk of those arrows, those nukes, man. Verse 8, so they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. And all right, and that's why you have all these whistleblowers. Even AI, AI telling on this nigga, man, to where he got to try to alter the AI, update and modify the AI. Okay, because it shows you that the fact that, through the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Al-Shai, we able to, get truth out of the AI that, the devil's not in full control of nothing, man. Okay, he has a lot of control in particular things, but he doesn't have full control of anything. Verse 9, it says, and all men shall fear and shall declare the work of the Most High, for they shall wisely consider his doing, because the Lord gonna make a statement when he judge this nigga, man. Okay, the Lord gonna make a statement when he judge Esau. Okay, the earth gonna shake, as the scriptures say, man, and a whole continent gonna be turned into a lake of fire. Okay, it's like, damn, this what this shit led to. This nigga hyped us up like he had it figured out, and this how it ended. You know, verse 10 it says, "The righteous shall be glad in the Lord and shall trust in him, and all the upright in heart shall glory." Okay, and this is the elect, man. You know, so the Lord has brought us back, okay, into trusting in him. Okay. Well, most of the world trust in Esau. That's why they're going to bend the knee. They're being herded into this new world order, which makes them complete enemies to Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai. Okay? But now, man, we're glad to see this devil falling. You know, we've been given the spirit of prophecy to know how it ends. You know, we're comforted by the Lord performing his work in the earth, man. You know? So, yeah, that's the point. You know, we'll leave it there. You know, yeah. So your Lord will, you know, you brothers, all right, and you sisters edified once again. We give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashum, Yahweh Shah Bahashum, Kakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to us, our brothers, and peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. Shalom.